little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching have taken over. We the people, our little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are, reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Superman, that we're the only ones who can be strong, but we break on command, cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you so much for listening in at spacedoutradio.com and on Spreaker, as once again we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, and broadcast you live on this Monday night, early Tuesday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are broadcasting 3 hours a night, 7 days a week. We want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, conspiratorial, ufological, and so much more. Like our music? If you head to the new look spacedoutradio.com, you will hear the guitar god Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. Check out a couple of his music videos by clicking on the Bumblefoot banner. Also, you can check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, is Spaced Out Radio Show, and of course our website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we'd like to say hello to those listening in on the SHR Media Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Forest Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. Hey, Space Travelers, you can now head to the Spaced Out Radio website and sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's $5 a month, and we will be doing monthly prize draws, having private group interviews, access to a special section on our website, and much, much more. We're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. Also, check out our new feature on the website, the SOR Space Wire. Spaced Out Radio's news editor, Eric Markham, has posted some interesting stories from around the world. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. PurplePlates.com to help heal your body, mind, and soul. 80,000 people a month read the new Agora newspaper. And the iTunes app, Spirit Storybox. It's the official ghost hunting app of Spaced Out Radio. It's the final Monday of the month, which means we bring back UFO Cop's Butch Witkowski, who is the newest monthly contributor to Spaced Out Radio. Butch is one of the top researchers of cryptid and alien studies in the eastern United States. Based out of Pennsylvania, Butch takes to the field in search of eerie creatures like Dogman, werewolves, and Bigfoot. But in the field of ufology, he has researched and built up government sources who have helped him break down everything from human and cattle mutilations to abductions and contact. It takes a pretty strong person to be able to delve into all of these topics. Long hours, extensive investigation, cost of equipment, and riding the fine line between government cover-up and human reality. It can really take its toll for sure. But it's something Butch enjoys, otherwise he wouldn't be doing it, of course. Butch's website can be found at uforcop.com. we bring in Butch Witkowski to Spaced Out Radio. Once again, his website, uforcop.com. Butch, welcome back. How you been doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me back on.
It's always a pleasure. And you know what? You were on last month, but this is really the first month that we have started you as a monthly guest on this show. And the reason why I wanted to get you involved is because you're very multifaceted when it comes to the investigation. You don't focus just on one topic. You focus on the entire cryptid alien type spectrum. How do you keep going, Butch, with so many different topics coming at you from so many different angles?
Well, it does require a lot of background research. I figure by now I should have 2 doctorate degrees. It's just fascinating because I know a lot of folks are trying to put cryptozoology and ufology and the paranormal under one big umbrella, but I can't wrap my head around that quite yet, and so having the UFO experience stuff is a lot of help, even though some in the cryptozoology field are trying to lean more toward a ufology answer for Bigfoot and a few other creatures. And, trying to prove or disprove that is time-consuming, very time-consuming. The basic is that there are things out there. We don't know what they are, no more than we know what's flying above our heads. We know they're not ours. We know the things that people are reporting in the woods are not natural, although some could be. It's one of those things that kind of like bites you in the butt, and you just have to know. You got to find out the truth, and that's really all it's about. I mean, it's not about any self-gratification like a book or a TV show or anything like that. It's just being able to stand up there and saying, here's what we found, here's what we got, here's the proof, here's the evidence, do with it as you will.
As our fans get to know you here, and our listeners alike, especially the new listeners who may not have heard you before, Butch, what made you decide that this was something you needed to investigate? What was the passion behind this? Because for a lot of people, it takes an experience or a story that they just can't figure out on their own in order to make this happen. Was it something like that, or was it just an avid curiosity as you got older that you figured that, hell, you got to find out what is truly out there?
No, it was exactly like you said. It was something that happened that I couldn't explain or get an answer for. And that took place in 1989. We were living in Arizona, and we were standing in our driveway, and we had some folks over to plant some saguaro cactus in the yard, and it was very hot. So my wife went and got everybody tea. So there were like 3 guys, my wife and I, a neighbor across the street, and the neighbor next door were all outside. And I looked up, as probably everybody else did, almost at the exact same time, because there was this huge craft hovering above a mountain in Tucson, and it was silent. It was just kind of bobbing up and down very slightly. It was at least 3 football fields in length. It was huge. Had a few faint green lights on the side. It was a burnt copper color. And then it rose up and maybe 1,500, 2,000 feet, and shot off to the west so fast you can't believe it. So I called the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I called the Tucson Police Department. I called the Department of Public Safety, which is Arizona's Highway Patrol. I called the radio networks, TV networks. I called Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. I called the 2 other airports in the area. I called another airport. It was out in Marana. I called everybody I could think of, and they didn't have any report of it, not one. The neighbor across the street, after it left, he looked at me, and I kind of looked at him just dumbfounded, and he yelled over, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "I have no idea." Now, this guy, he's retired now, many years, but at the time he was head of federal prisons for the western part of this country. So, being a law enforcement officer, I mean, he knew what he saw. My neighbor, who was an attorney, said the same thing, you know, like, what was that? And I'm going, I don't know. And so everybody started digging, and we got nowhere. We got absolutely nowhere. Nowhere at all. We didn't get an answer from anybody. So I decided, well, you know, I'd look into it, and, you know, I started collecting books and papers and anything I could find on UFOs or strange craft in the skies. And after a few years of that, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, everything I read really wasn't giving me an answer, it just gave me a story. And I just decided I'm going to get away from it. I'm just going to let it go, let it lay. And I did. And then in about 2006, I was watching TV with my wife, and a show came on about UFOs, and it was like something just bit me, and I just had to know. There was no way I was going to stop. I had to know. Had to know the truth, had to know what's out there, had to know why, what, where, when, all that stuff. And I got back into it and on my own, and then in 2007 joined MUFON, became a chief investigator, state section director, STAR team member, all that stuff, and thought, well, this will get me where I want to be. But it didn't, because, again, I ran into that same data collection that I already did. And so I had this idea that if I got like-minded researchers together that had a lot of experience that I have met over the years, and started a small group, which did only start out with about 5 people, and now we have, I think, 45 or 50 hardened, seasoned researchers that have been at this a lot longer than I have, and they're all over the country, and we have 2 in Europe. And I just thought, well, you know, instead of me relying on databases to get my information, you know, I could rely on others' experience and what they found. Plus, when I get something that I'm kind of stumped with, it's a whole lot easier than to send out an email to all these folks and say, well, what do you think? Here's what I got. What do you think? And I get answers. And otherwise, if I still was doing it the old way, I'd be sending information into a database for a query, and I would get absolutely pretty much nothing back. And it has paid off in many respects. We've got a lot of answers. We've got a lot of questions answered. We've got a lot of information on UFOs. And it was only in 2014, yeah, it would have been 2014, November of 2014, when we got our first cryptid report that came to us. Now, although the website says that we do cryptozoology, most of our stuff was ufology. And this crypto thing was kind of new, but it was so strange. I normally would have turned it over to another group here in Pennsylvania, but this one was so strange and so out of kilter that I decided, you know, we'd run with it, and we have. And till today, we have 16 reports of the same type of creature running around in the same area of Pennsylvania that is just way unbelievable. And it's not Bigfoot, and it's not Dogman.
Well, we're going to get into the werewolf sightings coming up, because the last couple times that you've been on, we've talked about that, and I want to get an update to see if anything more has happened with that. When you started seeing the frustration that a lot of people were having when they were investigating their sightings, I went through it as well. I mean, hell, Butch, I actually, one night after seeing a white orb slowly fly probably about 600-700, maybe 1,000 feet up above my house, and my friends and I watched it from our patio take off, bank left, bank right, and then all of a sudden drop like you would drop a ball to the ground. It was something. I actually even called my former newsroom that I looked at, and one of the guys I used to work with, his name's John, he picked up the phone. And I said, hey, it's Dave. How you doing, man? And he's like, hey, long time no hear. What's going on? What's the call? I said, has anybody reported a UFO over my town? And you kind of hear him go,
yeah.
No, Dave, how much have you had to drink, or what have you been smoking tonight? And literally that was his words, right? And,
oh, yeah.
And so I know personally the frustration that you were going through. in regards to that phone call when you tried to figure out what those lights were. So that was kind of your mantra to say, screw it. If nobody else is going to give me answers, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, exactly. And, after a while, you get tired of the giggle factor. And I just thought to myself, well, to do this, we're going to need equipment, we're going to need a vehicle, we're going to need this, we're going to need that, we're going to have to develop this, set up our own databases, we're going to have to research this and buy this, and, right now I got like 1,500 books. And so it's a lot of research. I mean, there's so many stories out there that, it is just truly amazing. And that the person that wrote the story has never stepped foot in the field for anything. We've gone out many times on Star Watches, and we've come up with, all totaled, I've seen 16 that I can't explain. I've never been alone. In 2 cases, I was standing next to law enforcement officers, one state and one federal. And, they're describing these things like, yeah, we see these all the time. What are they? Well, I don't know what they are, but I know they're not ours. When you see something zigzag across the sky, horizon to horizon, in a matter of a second, and it'll stop, and it drops down, makes like a U-turn, and goes straight up and continues on its path, stops, turns color from a glowing orange to a bright fire red, and shoot up into the sky, well, you pretty much know at that point you're not crazy. Now, had I seen all these on my own, I would probably check in somewhere to have my head looked at, but I've never been alone when I saw one. All excursions, we bought the best equipment we could buy. Everything we have is top rate to get us what we need to get, and that's everything from infrared photography to motion detection cameras and high-speed surveillance cameras that take a picture every half second. Day or night, and we've come up with a lot of interesting things that we can't explain. So now the best part of it is to, as we've been doing, when you get these type of cases, to just go, explore, dig until you come up with an answer as to what it would be, and that means looking at star maps, looking at talking to astrologers. We have one gentleman that has joined the group recently who has he actually has an observatory on his property. So when we get something that's out of the ordinary, we can call him and say, well, we think it's Venus, and he'll go, well, no, not really, it's Mars. So there's so many things in the sky that so many things are mistaken for what they really are as opposed to what people think they are. And that takes a lot of time just to, separate the wheat from the chaff there. And but the cases, there are many cases that are very, very good, and there are many cases that are very, very bad. So, excuse me, out of 100 cases, I would say probably 96% of them are explainable, and the other 4% are probably a true unknown that we do not know what it is. And it's been like that for quite a while. That percentage hasn't changed. And when I say that 96% we know what it is, that includes hoaxes, and there are a lot of those.
When you look at the amateur investigators that are out there, and the internet world is full of them, let's be honest here. You see it on a daily basis. I see it on a daily basis. And one of the things that I am interested in learning from you is, how did you become a professional in this, Butch? Because there are so many amateur investigators out there. I would consider myself an amateur investigator, yet you had to take it to that next level. How did you go from just having that curiosity to becoming one of the premier investigators on the East Coast?
Well, what you need to do is, first of all, it has to be something that's not only in your mind but in your heart, that you need to know what the truth is. When you see something or somebody tells you something or you read a report on something that happened, you really have to have a mindset that I really need to know what happened with this, what took place. Could it have taken place? Taking a report over the internet by email is nonsense. Now, we do that, but only because it might be coming out of Northern California, or it might be coming out of Puerto Rico or something like that, where we don't have people. But then that's always followed up immediately with a phone conversation and whatever they have, photographs, drawings, and so it's not a every case is treated with the utmost of investigative power that we have. And whether that is, I mean, we've left at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to a site in Virginia. Call up one of my guys and say, pack up, we're leaving, I'll pick you up in an hour, and we're off to Virginia in a driving rainstorm. We've done that to New York. We've done that in New Jersey. So you have to have that mindset that when something happens, you really need to go. You need to get it done. If you're just going to stack it up on a pile of reports, and at the end of the month tell your people that, well, we had 35 reports this month. Wow, okay, what were they about? Well, they're just 35 reports. No, you need to go after every report like it's the only one you're ever going to get. Yeah, you're going to be disappointed. And when you find out it's a hoax, or you prove it's a hoax through photographs or video, or the testimony, eyewitness testimony, you know, you're looking and they're telling you, well, I've seen it over here. Well, there's no way they could see it over there, because when we did the weather check for that day in particular hour, the ceiling was 0, there was fog on the ground level, you know, they couldn't have seen anything. And or they send you samples of this circle of stuff is growing in my yard. Well, yeah, it's called your lawn has a disease, and these little polyps you see growing up, you should really treat with this chemical. And you send them the information, of course, and always give the people the information that you gather. I mean, a lot of guys that I've met over the years hold stuff back from people, and I've always seen that to be not only rude but kind of misleading, because if you know something, say something, you know, or advise them that, okay, you saw this from this location at this time, and we have 2 other reports of the same thing seen 10 miles from here, which is very plausible. And multi-witness reports are always the best, whether it's a Bigfoot report or Dogman or cryptozoology or even paranormal. It's one of those things where you just have to have it in your heart and your head that you need to find out the truth. Don't take anybody's word for it. You prove it happened, or you prove it didn't happen, or you prove it was a hoax. Don't let somebody else tell you it's a hoax, because, you know, everybody has ulterior motives, whether it be the government or just, you know, somebody else that's, you know, your investigation is going to cramp their style in their new book or new white paper they're coming out with. But I've always looked at that and went like, well, they don't know me nothing and I don't know them nothing, so I'm just going to do what I do. And pretty much our whole team feels the same way. And the amateurs out there, and I will say this, there are some really good ones, whether by happenstance or a sighting, they got the bug and they want to know the truth. And some of them get way out there. You know, they just, they go well beyond what they should be doing or looking for, and then they start to concoct things in the report that actually never took place or couldn't have happened. And, but there's, the younger ones are great. These young investigators that are coming up are putting a lot of us old guys to shame, because they're savvy. They know the computers. They know how to research. They know what a library is. They know mathematics. They know weather. You know, they've done research before, whether it's for school or college or whatever, so they know how to go and look for something. And on any case, I mean, if you don't do background, whether it's paranormal, Bigfoot, or anything else, if you don't do a background research, I mean, you're just going out there blind, and you're really not going to have a whole lot of information to share with anybody, including the person you're going to interview. But it's kind of a thing that I always say, the bug bit me in the wrong spot, and it's basically just a hunt for the truth. I mean, you know, stories I can get a dime a dozen, the books I can buy anywhere, videos I can see all over the place. But I want to know it for myself. I want to be able to say, here it is, here's the proof, this happened, there it is, that's the way it is, and I could walk away from it. But now we're getting into so many weird things that walking away, I think, is only going to happen when I wake up hearing music and smelling fresh flowers.
You know, we only have about 30 seconds, Butch, before we are going to go to break here. So I'm going to ask you a quick question about amateurs out there in the field. Do you find that even though, like you said, there's some good amateurs out there investigating and doing it the right way, especially if they are personally technologically advanced, but is it oversaturated in your opinion? And does that oversaturation affect what you are trying to do on a daily basis?
I don't see that oversaturation in ufology because it just takes money, to buy equipment. But I do see that oversaturation in the cryptozoology and paranormal fields. And then a lot of that is blamed on, I would definitely blame on the reality TV shows that are on there on the paranormal and on cryptozoology. But ufology, not so much, because you can go out there and say, well, I did this, that, and the other thing. Well, did you check for electromagnetic field? Well, what is that? Or how much does it cost for one of those? And then when you tell them that little box costs $300, they go like, I can't afford that. Well, if you can't afford it, then you shouldn't be doing it. But I see a lot of that because the equipment needed in those two fields, the paranormal and the Bigfoot field, the cryptozoology field, is really just boots on the ground and, a couple of recorders, a couple cameras, and you're good to go. We have seismographs, we have satellite communications, we have all that stuff. I can track something in another state via satellite in my truck, sitting in the driver's seat. So I see it more in those two fields, not so much in ufology anymore.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to a break here. I want to continue this talk for a little bit before we start getting into the Kexsburg incident of a UFO crash in the 60s in Pennsylvania, and you have a lot of information on that. So, Butch, you hang on. Butch Witkowski is our monthly guest, the final Monday of every month. He is from UFOcop.com, a great website with great investigation on there. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back after this.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Hi there. This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 Mediums and a Large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small. You're bound to find what you're looking for. So join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost?
Look no further than Spaced Out Radio.
SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click on to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on radio
or our website, including social media.
From commercial spots to banners, we have it all.
Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with UFO Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Want to connect with us online? Find us on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show, on Twitter, @Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, on YouTube, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. All right, space travelers, here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Hope you like the new look of spacedoutradio.com. We have some great features on there, including the SOR Space Wire, courtesy of Eric Markham, our news guru, along with a new page for Bumblefoot. And, more importantly, the SOR Space Travelers membership is officially open. $5 a month, just $5 a month. You get a bunch of stuff, not like the other guys who are just giving you access to their archives. No. We're doing it the right way because you, the valued Spaced Out Radio listener, well, you're kind of important to us. So we want to make sure you're taken care of as well. Check it out, spacedoutradio.com. Tomorrow night on the show, Audrey Starborn Mewins will join us. We're going to be talking about experiencers, the ET variety. It's going to be a great show. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And our new look website, once again, is spacedoutradio.com. Bill Cardwell and the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook has given us the password for tonight. Tonight's password is sleuth. Yes, the password is sleuth for you SOR space travelers. Really appreciate it. Tonight, it's the final Monday of the month, which means our newest monthly contributor, Butch Witkowski from UFOcop.com. Strange Days is what we are calling this one. And Butch, there's some strange stuff going on, isn't there?
Oh my, yes. Yeah, that's an understatement.
I want to get to Kexsburg here in just a few moments, but right before the break we were talking about credibility in investigation. And we were talking about you believe there's an oversaturation in the cryptid world and the paranormal world. Do you think it's because a lot of these groups are trying to prove that everything is scientific rather than using any type of spiritual or supernatural phenomena or answers like that? For instance, when it comes to Bigfoot, I'm a firm believer, and you may not agree, and others may not, but I am a firm believer that there is something interesting about Bigfoot. I believe it's an interdimensional being. And my own personal experience leads me to believe that. But we have so many Bigfoot investigators who are out there saying this is either Nephilim, the missing link to mankind, Gigantopithecus, or maybe a relative of the great gorillas in Africa. And they're trying to find that scientific background without using the supernatural sense. When you are investigating, do you take everything into consideration, or are you straight science as well?
No, you've got to take everything into consideration. You have to when you investigate, you better be investigating with an open mind, or you just might blow the whole deal. Interdimensional, I mean, Although there's no definition for interdimensional, that came about in the late 60s with science fiction, when science fiction really started taking off with Star Trek and stuff like that. But when you think about the words, or the word interdimensional, it condones a type of travel that we are not familiar with on any way, shape, or form at this point. But it is intriguing that, especially with Bigfoot, when you have something that is you're tracking, and all of a sudden in the middle of an open field, which I've seen in many cases, not that I've investigated those cases, but I've seen from other researchers that I believe are very good at what they do, and those footprints just stop. So how did that happen? How do you follow 20, 30 yards of footprints that are one after the other, just like something walking, and then there's nothing? It's gone. Or there are cases, especially in the Great Northwest, where the majority of cases are, where you have somebody viewing one through binoculars, and it's walking along in an open area that's not all cluttered up with trees and stuff, and it just disappears. So, possibility, yeah. I mean, like I said, open mind. If you got to have that open mind. I'm not quite sold on Bigfoot flying UFOs yet. I mean, that's the newest thing to come out, that Bigfoot has been seen piloting these crafts. I don't know how anybody came up with that, but that one I'm not ready for yet. But interdimensional, possible. Could it be something physical? Yes. Could it be an unknown hominid? Yes. I mean, until we, until we have one, until we have the body of one, it's, again, they're great stories, but with no proof and no evidence, that's what they are, great stories.
No, and I understand that, but when it comes to the amateur person, and I'm not trying to rip any amateurs, because I'm an amateur myself. All I can go by is my own personal experiences that I have had. But there seems to be so many people who are more interested in trying to get that television pilot or that television show or on certain radio programs to get their name out there that they almost forget what they are doing the investigation for. And I guess that is my personal belief. We see a lot of that in the paranormal especially. But how does the go ahead.
No, well, when you're going out there and you're finding nothing, and you're asked to go on a radio show, if somebody's just doing this for giggles, you're not going to turn down the radio show. That's a fact. And so you'll get out there and you'll be asked questions by the moderator, and you're going to answer them with whatever comes into your head, whether it's factual or not, because you're hoping to get your name out there, and people are going to start sending you reports and it's like years ago, and it continues till today. And a lot of researchers that are worth a snuff will tell you the same thing about any genre, and that is you've got a group of people that it's all about recognition, fortune, and glory. Now, I don't know anybody that's ever gotten rich doing this, but that's what they look for: recognition, fortune, and glory.
Understandable, and for a lot of people I can understand where it seems like this may be their only chance to get famous or their only chance to make a name for themselves, even if it is only a 15 minutes of fame. I guess where I'm trying to go with this is I'm just trying to figure out if there is too much out there in regards to everything, because for me, as someone who does this show, and I see how many podcasts or radio shows or radio networks are out there regarding these, it makes me scratch my head, because for a lot of people it's confusing. It's also added to the fact that when you get these amateur people out there, we look on YouTube all the time, and I search YouTube for stories, and the amount of video hoaxes, photographic hoaxes, CGI that is put out there now, it's almost like it's more disinformation than it is true investigative information.
Yeah, and you're right on. You're spot on with that. It is. For years in the ufology field, misinformation and disinformation was the way to go. I mean, that's the way it was done. But now there are so many independents out there that have been doing it a long, long time. And that's the thing that you want to look at when you get somebody new that has all this great information. How long have they been doing it? You know? If you get somebody making a Bigfoot claim, like there were a couple of guys on maybe a year or two ago, and they claimed they were surrounded by them and they couldn't get off the road and they were pushing the truck and they were doing this, that, and the other thing. And then somebody, a real researcher, pulled up a Google Earth on that location, which they described right to the T, with the exception of the road that they said they left on. There is no road. It's a cliff. So that researcher was smart enough to get a hold of another researcher who went out on the site to make sure that that was proper and right. And he went up and got as far as he could, just like they did. They said they couldn't go any further. Well, he couldn't go any further either, but there was no spot to turn around. He had to back all the way out. And he said where they say they turned around at this certain junction, there is nothing. It's just the same road. Just go back. It's a straight line. And if they would have made a turn there, he said it's not wide enough to turn a small car around, let alone a full-size pickup truck. They would have went off the cliff. So when they challenged those guys on a radio program, that was the last everybody heard of them. They have them hiding their hair, those guys. So, yeah, they try. I mean, they were damn near crying when they were telling their story, how scared they were, and they didn't have any weapons. And it was a 1-hour melee that I knew some researcher was going to pick up on this and go after it, and they did. And that's one of the things I think people should look for when they're looking to make a report, is look for the investigator in your area, your state, your county, your country, whatever, that's been at it a long time. And they're the folks that are going to give you the actual answer. Whether you like it or not, you're going to get an answer. If you get a hold of just somebody that started a new group that broke off from an old group and then, changed the name, but the same old guys who got PO'd at somebody and now they got different hats and different shirts and they're a whole new team, you want to stay away from folks like that because they're rampant. I mean, I know of one group that they've changed their name 5 times in the last 4 years. It's the same people. But they get a bad rap, so then they just change the name and they move on. The amount of hoaxes in the Bigfoot field is phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. It's far worse than ufology. Ufology with, these folks have, like you said, they have CGI, they have Photoshop and stuff like that. Well, what a lot of these people don't realize is with Photoshop is that, yeah, I can put your head on the top of an ape and make you run through the woods naked, screaming like a banshee. But somebody else with Photoshop can take that photo apart or that video apart and prove you to be wrong. So although they can get away with it, and a lot of people really can't. Photoshop's very expensive. I mean, people that say they have Photoshop, we have it. We have CS7, I think, 7, and that was like $4,500. But I can layer a picture right down to the last pixel. So after 3 or 4 layers, I can see what it is, or I can see what they did, and I just tell them, look, I know what it is, I know what you did, end of story, bye. But in the Bigfoot field, oh my God. Tree stumps are Bigfoot. Bears are Bigfoot. Burned out logs are Bigfoot. Tree branches are tree branches that are 16, 18 feet high and they're broke off. That's Bigfoot. Or there's a bunch of branches down in my yard. Must have been Bigfoot going through it. Come on. Look, it's the real researchers out there. They're few and far between. I mean, they're just not a whole lot of them.
So I'm going to cut you off here for 1 second. I'm curious to get your opinion then in regards to all these television shows that are out there, whether they're paranormal, whether they're out looking for Bigfoot, whether they're out looking for UFOs.
Follow the money. I mean, they're commercials. They make money. There have been shows that have been on for 3 or 4 episodes, and everybody thought they were great, and they got cut off. Why? Because they weren't making any money. Nobody wanted to sponsor them. Sponsors pay. That's how the stations make money. So if they got somebody on there that the people are tuning in every week to, they're making money, and they can afford to do what they do. But look how many shows over just the last 5 years have been canceled. Bigfoot shows, UFO shows, paranormal shows. They've all gone the way of the dodo because nobody was watching them. Therefore, sponsors weren't getting anything out of it, and their numbers were really low. Nobody was making any money, and that they ended. That was it. They're done.
So the ones who have survived then, and let's take Finding Bigfoot. I know when they tried to film in one section of British Columbia here where there is First Nations land, and they wanted to go on there and film because the Sasquatch is so revered by this clan of First Nations that they would not let them go because they figured, the way it's filmed and the way they use the word squatch and the way they kind of taunt the animal or whatever it is was very disrespectful of that.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know of any nation, Indian nation, indigenous nation, anywhere that would allow that. These are sacred beliefs. I mean, these people, whether it's a skinwalker or whether it's Bigfoot or Thunderbird, I mean, these are beliefs that have been around for hundreds of years, long before the white man ever got here. And, they take offense to that. And I don't know why they would even attempt that. I mean, I know what the little bit of hassle I had to go through to get information on skinwalkers from Cherokee. I mean, they were very nice about it, but, I wasn't going down there and parking on their driveway and saying, okay, I'm going to sit here and wait. I mean, I just asked for some information, historical information, which they were very kind to give me, and they gave me a lot of information on that. And, you can't encroach on beliefs. I mean, that's just number one. Some of these shows, like I watched the Bigfoot guys one time. One guy's sitting there frying up bacon and eating bacon and throwing out donuts and eating donuts. Then they're nailing a pork rib to a tree, and then they're yelling, screaming with torches, running through the woods in the middle of the night. And I'm thinking, one of these guys has to run into a tree one of these days. And they say, well, this is scientific. Well, if that's scientific, I'm selling my truck. I'm going to buy a torch. I'm going to buy a bunch of meat. Going to give away all my equipment. And I'm going to go run around the woods screaming at the top of my lungs and eating bacon and donuts.
I'll join you. That sounds very Canadian.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? We're only missing the beer.
Well, I'll bring that.
You got it.
I have a question from Kat in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. How do you weed out, in your opinion, the hoaxers and find legitimate people, especially if you don't know?
Well, first of all, I'll tell them to listen to a show like yours, because you have a lot of good people on there. Listen to... there are, how can I say this? You can get a hold of pretty much any group in your area. Okay, there's always a group. There's got to be. They're all over the place. Find the oldest group you can find, and then just go ask them and say, look, I either want to become involved, or can you tell me what you think of this? And just look at them, read them out. I mean, anybody can tell when they're being lied to. I mean, or they're being run around in a circle. Where I would give them caution is when they say, well, you got to join the group, and that's $100 every 6 months. You need to just walk away. There are a lot of good researchers. I mean, if somebody would need information on something, a research, if we couldn't help them, I'd point them to the best researcher I knew in that area. And there are a lot out there, believe me. A lot of these people left these groups many years ago. They went out on their own. They financed themselves. They don't charge anything. We don't charge anything for anything. When I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and ran to Virginia, I didn't charge those folks a dime. So there's a lot of folks out there that operate just like we do. And if somebody needs information, they can go on our website or send me an email through the website. I'll get it right away, and I can put them in the right direction. Or maybe I can just help them out with the information they're seeking over email or a phone call.
I have another question from Jeff in the SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. He is asking, with all the hoaxes going around about Bigfoot, does it jade you slightly, Butch, and leave you questioning why you bother searching when you have to sift through so many hoaxes?
Well, look, there have been so many reports over so many years that, I mean, common sense says that these people are seeing something. Now, whether it's misidentification, that could be. But it's just would not make any sense that something like this has not gone seen forever. I mean, even Gigantopithecus was found. So where I differ in research with the guys that are out there is that I look for their abode. Where do they live? Where do they hide? They surely just don't walk around all over the place. There's surely not just one of them. There has to be old ones. There has to be young ones. Sex has to be involved somewhere, unless they are spiritual or, interdimensional. They have to be someplace. Now, we've all gone through the DNA thing, which has been shot down 100 times already. We've been through all the hair and scat and all that stuff, which has all been shot down 100 times already. But there's just that one photograph that nobody can deny, and they've tried to 100 times, try to deny it, and, that's the Patterson Gimlin photograph of Patty. So maybe she was the last of her kind. Maybe she was just one of hundreds all over the country. But that's what you got to do to find them. Find out where they live. I mean, everybody goes running through the woods, like I said, with the pork chops and all that. So that's nonsense. So why don't they look in abandoned buildings and basements? They're all over the country. Old ghost towns, old factories. Pennsylvania is littered with them. Old railroad substations that have been shut down since the 19th century. I mean, they're everywhere. So why aren't you looking in the basements or looking in those buildings to see if you can find a nest or maybe bones of something that was chewing on them? Yeah, it may not be a Bigfoot, could be a wolf, could be anything. But at least you have a bone with teeth marks in, you can get that identified. If you see some fluids, you can take samples, you can draw DNA, you can do a lot of stuff. But that stuff doesn't seem to be put out there on the TV shows. So if a person's going to go out there and do that, the equipment they need to do Bigfoot researching is minimal, absolutely minimal. Strong legs, water, some food, a couple of things of this, a couple of things of that, you're good to go. But then you should look. I mean, I said something to one guy one time. I said, if you were on a Bigfoot hunt and you saw an empty bird's nest in a tree near the sighting, or a couple sightings, what would you do with the bird's nest? He says, nothing. Well, that just told me a lot about that researcher, because if that was an empty nest, I'd grab it. I'd take it. I'd bag it, tag it as evidence. Now, what am I looking for? What does a bird make a nest out of? Straw, grass,
dog hair.
Mm-hmm. So, why aren't they doing that? There's a lot of stuff out there to do. I mean, a lot of it's, the Bigfoot guys would go like, well, that don't make any sense. Well, it may not make any sense to you, but if I have 5 sightings here in a location, and the creature just walks into the woods and goes away, nobody can find it. But within 1 or 2 miles from that location where this creature is being seen, there's an abandoned factory, and it's pretty huge. But it's got a basement. And the basement's cold and dark and damp, but perfect hideout. And a quarter mile from that plant is a stream, water. So now we got water, we got food in the woods, we got shelter for the weather. They're surely not raising little ones out in the middle of sub-zero weather. all they're just going to have is a Bigfoot sickle. So, I mean, look for the obvious. Don't look for Bigfoot to come out and jump out in the middle of the trail and go, "Ha, gotcha."
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
Butch, go ahead,
Hmm?
please.
No, go ahead.
Well, we got about 2 minutes before we got to go to break here, and I want to get to Eric's question in the SOR Space Travelers, or the SOR Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. Have you ever heard reports, Butch, of Bigfoot mimicking tree stumps or rocks until they think no one can see them?
Yes, there have been a number of reports like that, especially tree stumps, where I think the researcher was in Washington State, I'm going to say 2 years ago, and he was watching a clearing where there had been a number of reports, and he was, he was getting himself pretty familiar with the clearing. It wasn't a very big clearing, and there was a stump there along the edge of the tree line. And as he went back and forth, and then he made another sweep, and when he came back, the tree stump wasn't there. And he swears and declares, he said, "I'm not a lunatic, I'm not crazy, I know what I was looking at." He said, "There was a tree stump there." So I walked over, and the only thing he had was one footprint.
I'm still looking for my first footprint, my friend.
So am I. I've gone to a dozen where there were supposed to be footprints, but there's a difference between a footprint and an impression. An impression can be made by anybody. A guy with a big foot with a big boot. It could be somebody kneeling down to tie their shoelace. It could be somebody dropped their backpack in soft ground. It could be anything. But impressions I've seen a lot. Footprint, I've not come across one yet.
On that note, we are going to hop out. We are going to take a break here at the top of the hour. Butch Witkowski is our guest. Strange Days, we call this. It's the final Monday of every month. This is number 1 for Butch as he takes over from Elizabeth Anglin, who's concentrating on her shows with James Tyson on Spaced Out Weekend. So Butch is gladly filled in. He'll be on the final Monday of every month. Hey, during the break while you're listening to the commercials, do us a favor, check out our new look website, spacedoutradio.com. We'd love it if you'd check it out. Let us know.
Control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them and project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, where the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
You can also follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, where our archives are stored, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back for the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Check out our new look website, spacedoutradio.com. It's finally activated on the air as of about 11 p.m. Pacific last night. It's looking good. Hit the enter. And when you hit enter on the welcome page, you go to the home page. Give it a couple of seconds. The show will pop up live when we are live on the air. You don't have to do anything. Just wait for it, and it'll pop around. I'm loving the new look. It feels good. It feels right. Lots of good energy on the new look spacedoutradio.com website. Tomorrow night on the show, Audrey Starborn Mewins will join us. We're going to talk about ET experiencers tomorrow night on the mighty SOR. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. Subscribe to that to hear our archives. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. A reminder to those in the SOR Space Travelers tonight, Bill Cardwell has set the password. Tonight's password is sleuth. Yes, sleuth is the password courtesy of Bill Cardwell. Tonight we are talking with Butch Witkowski. He is the head and lead investigator of UFOcop.com out of Pennsylvania. He investigates everything from Bigfoot to werewolves, Dogman, UFOs, mutilations, extraterrestrials. I don't think there isn't anything he wouldn't check out. Butch, welcome back.
Thank you.
We were going to get into Kexsburg right off the bat, but we're kind of leading down the path of Bigfoot right now and the cryptid zone, so let's just stick with it. Let's run with it. I have a couple questions here from the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker.
Okay.
And Kat has a question. Why do you feel, Butch, the trail cams that people are using just don't seem to capture Bigfoot?
Well, there are good trail cams and there are really good trail cams. A lot of people, they're not going to invest a lot of money into setting up trail cams all over the place, like 5 or 6 of them. And they don't have a great distance. You know what I mean? Something has to walk fairly close for them to fire off. The ones we use were kind of salty. I mean, like $500 a piece salty. They take a picture every half second, so nothing has to walk in front of the camera. If it gets within the field of view of a 150-degree lens, wide-angle lens, it starts taking pictures, and it will take pictures only when the movement in front of the lens stops. So, unlike other ones that, will take, a picture only when somebody comes up close to it, or something moves in front of it, like a deer or a cat or anything like that. And then it's the placement of the cameras. being that Bigfoot is always described as an 8-foot tall being, a lot of guys put these things high up in a tree. Well, that would be not good. I would want that down, maybe 4 foot off the ground at the very most. The camera lens will pick it up, but then people give a lot of excuses why it doesn't work. Like they can see infrared. Well, we don't know that, do we? Or we're in their feeding ground. Well, what do they eat? Well, we don't know that either. I had one researcher tell a group where he picked up a twig and said, "This is a Bigfoot toothbrush." How's he know that?
Really? A toothbrush? Come on.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
See, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off there for a second, but that's the kind of stuff that aggravates me. Because as someone who's seen Bigfoot, and I've seen 2 of them, my wife has seen 1. And when I hear things like that, well, this is a Bigfoot toothbrush, to me, that's a type of scenario that totally blows the entire credibility from the mainstream. We're trying to take this mainstream and get these topics into the mainstream and accepted by everybody. But when you hear something like that, that just sets everything back again. Don't you think, Butch?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when the guy left, I got called by they called another researcher up in upstate Pennsylvania, who's a very well-known fellow, and he couldn't do it. He was going someplace else, but he said, get a hold of me. Butch will probably take a look at it for you because he's not that far away, and it's only an hour drive, so I jumped in the truck and went up, and they started telling me what this guy said and found. And when they said about the toothbrush, I just looked at the guy and I said, well, did he tell you what kind of toothpaste he uses? And where did he see Bigfoot using this as a toothbrush? And it was just a twig he picked up. He said, he said, look on the ground. And I looked, there were twigs all over the place. He said, he just picked up a twig. And he said, this is a Bigfoot toothbrush. And I said, well, there you are. And he says, I just couldn't believe it. He said, and then he said, we were following tracks. I said, where are the tracks? He said, well, we didn't see any tracks. He saw tracks. I said, so you followed a guy that said he sees tracks, but you didn't see any tracks. He didn't point any track out to you. Right. And then he crossed the highway, and he showed you where he crossed the highway, and then up an embankment, and then walked out into a field, and probably went into another dimension or got into an alien craft and left.
Are you
now,
kidding
thank God. No, I'm not kidding you at all. Thank God these people have half a brain. And they, even though they didn't know a whole lot about Bigfoot, they knew they were being stroked. And so that happens all the time. It just does. I mean, these guys don't have an answer, and they get called out there. They don't want to drive to your location, whether it's an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is, and then get there and have no answers for your questions. Look, I don't see something. If I don't find anything, I'll tell you that right out. There's nothing here. Or, I'm certainly not going to look for a toothbrush. But this happens a lot. And that's what causes exactly what you're talking about. People get a bad taste, or they just think that every investigator is a loony. And it only takes 1 or 2. And then it goes from there. But it happens in paranormal, it happens in ufology. But there are people that have set ufology back 50 years. There are people that have set Bigfootery back probably longer than that. But it is what it is. I always tell people, use your common sense. You know that there was nothing that walked out of a pond, walked across the grass, through the pine trees, out onto the highway, crossed the highway, went up the embankment, walked into a field and got on a craft or vanished. I said, I understand there between 3 of them, and I said, there's not one of you guys here that can look me in the eye and say you believe that. They said, no, we didn't believe it when he was saying it. I said, what you should have done then was tell him you don't believe it, and tell him to leave. If you want a story, you could always go to the library and buy a book on fairy tales.
Question coming in from Shar in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. She's asking, Butch, how do you think they can just vanish right after someone sees them?
That I have no idea. All I know is that, either it's a very easy hoax because you can get a print, you can buy prints on eBay, you know, and somebody goes out there and makes 1, 2, 3 prints, and then no more print, and they say, well, it just vanished. My first question is, why am I only looking at 3 right-sided footprints? Where's the left foot? And that has happened in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases. So that automatically tells me this is a hoax. Either that or there's a one-legged Bigfoot running all over the country, because those sightings like that come in from all over the country, where there's 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 footprints, and they're all right-sided footprints. There's no left.
They should have carved out another foot.
Yeah, or another thing is the palm print, okay? So to do that, and one guy got caught at it, where he took an old catcher's mitt, okay, folded it in half, strapped it up, you know, so it wouldn't come apart, and went along an embankment making these impressions like it was something crawled out of the pond, okay, or was trying to get out of the pond. Again, left-handed mitt, no right-handed mitt. So, again, where's the right hand? So now we got to look for a one-legged, one-hand, one-armed Bigfoot. Some of these hoaxes are so ridiculous that even a person that doesn't investigate these things a lot or at all can stand there and just their normal intuition is going to go like, what? What are you talking about? You know, another thing was, at that same scene, there were 2 prints that the gentleman that was investigating said could have been a Dogman, okay? And I looked at the guy and I said, well, my first question is, do you have any large dogs in this area, in this community? Oh, yeah. He said, we got 2 Great Danes. He said, well, I got a Mastiff. And I said, well, I'll go with the Mastiff. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm looking at. Oh, yeah, I never thought of him. I said, there you go. So I said, now I solved your case. I'm going home. But, I mean, some of these guys are outrageous, what they come up with. And they come up with this stuff because they don't have anything else. They don't have any evidence. They don't have any proof. Most of them have never seen a Bigfoot in their life. Wouldn't know one if they tripped over its body. I mean, look at the hoaxes that we've had just in the last couple of years. The one in the Bigfoot in the freezer.
That one was bad.
The sleeping Bigfoot. Now, these things are supposed to be so fast and so quick that this particular individual and his team walk up on this thing while it's sleeping, and they're within 3 foot of it while they're taking photographs of it, and it doesn't move. Now, there's no video, because video you would have had to look for breathing, but there was no breathing, so they took still pictures. And when they got questioned about that, they said, well, they did get some DNA from the animal. How did they get DNA? Well, we're not saying. Okay, so did you draw blood? Draw urine? What did you draw? I mean, did you clip hair? They wouldn't answer the question, and pretty soon that story went away too. But as far as
go ahead.
As far as disappearance, I mean, as far as these guys that say they're watching something and it just vanishes in front of them, I mean, I don't know how to answer that one. I mean, I just don't.
Corey, my booking coordinator, has a comment for you.
Sure.
And I've never heard this. And here in British Columbia, you know, we get a lot of Bigfoot sightings around the province. And Corey is an avid Bigfoot lover. You know, she is someone who just absolutely believes in the creature, and she's just on the hunt for it. She hasn't found anything yet, but we're looking. Her and I are a team on this. And her comment is, excuse me, sorry, a little frog in my throat there. A woman she knows said she and a friend saw a Bigfoot floating down an incline about a foot above the ground, coming down to the side of the road near Pemberton, British Columbia, which is just north of Whistler. Have you ever heard of this?
No, I have not. No.
Kind of adds to the legend, doesn't it?
Sure. I mean, I think between you and I and maybe 3 or 4 other people on the program tonight, we could come up with a lot of stuff. But then again, when was the last time that you or anybody out there in your audience has seen a clear, unblurred picture of Bigfoot?
Oh, I agree.
I mean, there's none. None exists. Period. Now, being what we do is what we do, we have very sophisticated cameras, very expensive, Nikon and Canon and Sony and Panasonic, Lumix. I got the best I could buy. And I'm going to tell you something. If I see one and I get a picture, it's going to be clear as a bell. Now, how all these people are out, and I've seen some of these guys in the field, they do have good cameras. They have Nikons. They got Canons. And these are guys taking blurry pictures. Now, how do you do that with a camera that's pretty much automatic? It focuses automatically. All you got to do is push the button. It allows for light. It allows for clarity. It allows for the distance. It does everything. And yet these are the same guys that bring in pictures that when you look at it, you're going like, wow, I think I dated that in the 60s. That's pretty ugly. But what is it? You know, they don't know. They say it's Bigfoot. So you either stand there and laugh, call them a liar, or just walk away shaking your head.
Well, you know, one of the things that intrigues me about it is there is no real true answer. You know, and the more you hear some of these stories, and I'm not buying that Bigfoot is taking off in the Millennium Falcon like Chewbacca. You know, I'm not buying that at all. Somebody saw too much Star Wars. But I do believe there is a reason why we haven't found a body. I do believe there is a reason why Bigfoot can be walking, or the Yeti can be walking through the Himalayas, through a snowbank, and you see the footprints, and all of a sudden they just come to an end. I think there is something very supernatural about this creature, and when it comes to the photographs, I mean, there has been people talking, and I think there's some legitimacy of this, that Bigfoot can put out a frequency that kind of screws with electronics, and that's the reason why. And I think the reason why it didn't happen with the Patterson Gimlin film is because, really, there was no computer on board. A camera was a camera. You pressed a button, it was battery-operated. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't electronic.
It's a hand watch.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then, you know, it was quite a while before that film even was put out there. And, you know, that film has gone through so much scrutiny that it's unbelievable. But one of the things is that, and this guy's an old Bigfoot researcher. He passed away a couple years ago. But when I first got involved, he said to me, he said, I'm going to tell you the secret to looking. And I said, okay, I could use a secret. He says, number one, he said, you don't run through the woods. That's number one. You don't do any of this hokey-pokey knocking on trees and flashlights and all this crap. He said, that's nonsense. He said, you had a sighting in an area. You go to that area. You set up your camera on a tripod. He said, you sit your butt down and have your sandwich, and you watch, and you look, and you listen, and you record. Period. End of story. He said, why would anything being chased through the woods with torches and flashlights and infrared and all this other garbage they use stop to tell you that, hey, I'm over here? He said, you want to catch it as it's walking from here to there, or it pops its head up and you get a good shot, a good clean shot. He said, for all these guys out there, all of them, he said, show me one that you've ever seen carrying a tripod. I said, I've never seen any. He said, even a bipod, which, you know, the single stick to steady your camera. He said, did you ever see anybody carrying one of those? I said, no. He said, so if they do get a picture of something, whatever it is, he said, first of all, they're excited, so they're shaking. Now, what kind of picture do you get? Blur job. And I said, oh, yeah. We find the same thing in ufology. I always tell people when they're out doing Star Watch or something like that, if you're going to be taking video or camera, you need to have a tripod. Because when you do see something, the first thing is you're excited. You're seeing something you probably never saw before, or something you did see before, and now you really can validate it. And, you know, your nerves are gone. I mean, you're naturally going to shake or move or twist or do whatever you want. Well, at the same time you're doing that, you got the camera in your hand. So you can make a perfectly still object look like it's flying across the skies or disappearing or whatever, going up, going down, going sideways, going in circles. That's you. That's the camera. That's not the object you're looking at. But if it's on a tripod, you're not touching the camera. The camera's doing its thing. You're not involved. And if you're using a 35 or digital 35 SLR, you use a remote. I mean, it plugs into the front of the camera. Every camera has the plug. You plug it in there. It costs about $8 on eBay. And you got this long wire, and you're sitting in your chair watching, and something goes across, and you just start pushing the button. That's it.
Gail has a question in the SOR Space Travelers tonight. Butch, have you ever seen a Bigfoot?
No, I have not.
Bob has a question in the SOR Space Travelers, and I'm going to reword it a little bit here, because here in British Columbia, there have been noted and documented cases of Bigfoot taking women and men for partners.
Yeah, I've heard those stories, yes.
Have you ever investigated that on the East Coast? Is it happening over there, or is this just a British Columbia or West Coast phenomena?
No, the cases I heard pretty much all come out of Canada, Alaska, way north, and some from indigenous tribes. But I've never heard any here or pretty much anywhere in the States that I can recall. But north, yes. And they go back quite a ways, too.
The answer that I received to that question before I ever started out with Spaced Out Radio, and I got this from a First Nations friend of mine, is that Bigfoot is... There are more male than female Bigfoot. Okay. And so the idea is they take a lot of native women, and because they are closer to Mother Earth and have kind of like the same vibrancy and frequency of a female Bigfoot. Therefore, the female First Nations is very susceptible to becoming a Bigfoot wife if she's wandering alone. Now, for instance, up north here, there is a very sad situation north of me, a couple 100 miles of a highway, and you can Google it. It's called the Highway of Tears, where literally dozens of First Nations women have gone missing hitchhiking along this highway.
I've read those stories, yes.
And the whole story about it is there's like 75, 80 women. Like, it's a ridiculous amount of numbers. And there is a serial killer out there. We're not making fun of this, and we hope one day the Canadian RCMP, who is investigating that, finally find the sicko who's doing that. But what one First Nations woman told me, I was shocked by it. Because I asked her point blank, I said, knowing that Bigfoot has taken First Nations women before, I said, out of those women who are missing, I'm curious how many you think have been taken by Bigfoot. And she actually looked at me deadpan and said, my cousin's wife went missing and has never been seen again in that. And she says, the police will not listen to us, but we think the number is between 25 and 30% of the women who have gone missing have become Bigfoot wives.
Wow.
And here she added another adjective to that. She also stated that most of the women who went missing were either on their menstruation cycle, pregnant, or within a year of giving birth. So they've given birth, and within that 0 to the child being 1. And there's something about the odor and the scent of the woman that apparently attracts Bigfoot. And that's why First Nations women are told up here in British Columbia never to go out alone after dusk.
And that's true with a lot of animals. That matter of fact, I think it was Four Corners Investigative Group had a indigenous that was going to go with them, and she was asked the question if she was on her cycle, and she said yes, and he said, we're not taking you along. Because, they had a fear that, she could be grabbed, or and they couldn't stop it, or something would happen. And but that is even in safaris over in Africa. If a lady has her cycle, they refuse to take her out because she's like zeroed in by every predator that you can think of, from hyenas to lions, because of scent. And but the stuff that's happening up your way, yeah, I do agree. There's got to be a serial killer involved in this somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No. And we're not trying to put that situation down, because it is a sad situation.
Yeah, and I do a lot of work on missing folks and abductions and stuff like that. And look, there's just a lot of people go missing in certain areas of this whole world. That from whole villages disappearing in North Africa to South Africa, or some forgotten low-lying island out in the middle of whatever ocean. They're never seen or heard again. And when people show up, there's stuff cooking on the stove. There's kids' toys laying around. It's just like everybody just gone. So who knows? There's so much in these fields, and I don't care what field we're talking about. If I had the wherewithal to do it right, I'd have 6 trucks, 7 trucks. I'd have a mobile command unit. I'd have a helicopter. I'd have the whole 9 yards. I'd have everything I could put in the air. But unfortunately, you just can't do that. So you do it piecemeal. You do it the best you can. You just hunt for the truth. And,
I got it, my friend. I have it. What we have to do is we have to convince the United States military that Bigfoot has Taliban ISIS ties on American soil. We're going to find this bastard this way.
Well, I'll tell you this. Here's one for you. There was a Bigfoot group that in Pennsylvania here that went, and they relayed the story to me. I believe it was last year. Yeah, last year. And they said they were in a certain area that's part of my research area, and part of theirs also. They're looking for Bigfoot. I'm looking for something else. And the guy said, there they are. They're, it's night. They're doing their thing, walking down this trail, and out of the trail steps a guy in full military gear, from night vision to boots and everything in between. He's got radio. He's got it's not an old surplus stuff. This is brand new. He said he recognized the camo pattern because he's the one of his guys recognized it because it's he's in the Army National Guard. The guy's carrying a full automatic M4 rifle. He's got what they thought looked like smoke grenades, but the guy with him said they could have been incendiary. In the middle of the woods, in the middle of the night, this guy just walks out of the woods. Now, he's as surprised at seeing them as they are at seeing him. So the first words out of his mouth, other than "Hi, how are you?" or anything like that, he says, "Oh, just out looking for bear." Turns around and walks back into the woods, and he's gone. They looked and they couldn't see him. He could have been laying there, but they didn't see him. So they just kind of backtracked out and went on their merry way. So at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of a state game land, why would there be a combat equipped with full automatic weapon stomping through the woods?
I hear you. And on that note, we are going to take our break at the bottom of the hour. More with your questions and some UFO talk about Kexsburg right after this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. Our guest tonight, Butch Witkowski, Strange Days, the new monthly segment on the final Monday of every month here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Fairies? Bigfoot? Dogmen? Trolls? Goblins? Hey, if it's cryptid in any way, I'm looking into it. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, also known as Spaced Out Radio's Crypto Guru. Join me every second Wednesday of the month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will talk about the stories people call tall tales. I will fill you in on the latest sightings and the hidden histories that are causing quite a stir. You can find everything at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Reveal Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
Would you like to expand your clientele? Have you ever thought of online radio advertising? Check out spacedoutradio.com to get your name out there. Our listeners support those who advertise with us, so why not give it a try? We have the most competitive advertising prices out there. Just click on the advertising tab on spacedoutradio.com and contact us today.
Are you an ET experiencer, but you just don't know what's going on? Are you too timid or shy to discuss it with anyone? Maybe I can help. Join me, R. Keith Andrews, the first Friday of every month on Spaced Out Radio, and I will help you to find the answers you're looking for. Together, I will help you understand the off-worlders and the true meanings behind your experiences. All you have to do is join us in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. See you there.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. We're starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I don't want to take a thing from you, I just want to feel like something real with you. I just want to fly high to another.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us, as last night we relaunched the new look Spaced Out Radio website. There's plenty for you to view on there. Previous guests, who's part of the Spaced Out Radio team, a new Bumblefoot page. You can listen to this show nightly live on the website. As well, you could check out our new SOR Spacewire as our news director. Eric Markham is looking for the weird and the strange to post in Spaced Out Radio Land. And don't forget, for only $5 a month, just $5, you can now join the SOR Space Travelers. Go to spacedoutradio.com, click on it. We've made it nice and simple and easy for you. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. Reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. Subscribe to that to hear our archives. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we are talking Strange Days with Butch Witkowski from UFOcop.com. He is a monthly contributor to this show on the final Monday of every month. This used to be Elizabeth Anglin's spot, for Cosmic Passport. But Elizabeth is quite busy these days helping out James Tyson on Spaced Out Weekend, so we had to make a little bit of a change. We miss Elizabeth, but Butch is here to fill in the giant shoes and the big void. And Butch, it's good to have you part of the team now.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me being part of the team. Good team.
I got one more Bigfoot question for you from Bob Burrell in the SOR Space Travelers before we move on to Ufology, because I really want to get into Kexsburg tonight. He is asking, what is your opinion of the Todd Standing videos? Did you think they were legit?
No. Nobody else did that I know of. I mean, when they first came out, there was a flurry of people running around in circles saying, this is it, this is it, this is it. And then, you know, it just, as most do, just fell apart.
What made them so unbelievable to you?
I think the way the whole thing was set up, it was just not normal, the way it was done. I mean, everything was kind of like happenstance. It just happened that way. And as everybody knows, and I don't care what kind of research you're doing, things just don't happen that way. You know, they just don't pop up. When you're looking for Bigfoot, whether it's a Bigfoot looking through a truck window, or the Bigfoot laying on the ground sleeping, or the Bigfoot tree stump, or whatever. I mean, things just don't happen that easily. I don't really know Todd. I know from researchers here in Pennsylvania, he's been caught a couple times hoaxing things. So, you know, I haven't made up any mind one way or the other on what type of researcher he is. I just don't. I didn't believe what I saw, and that's just my opinion. But you know, that whole story went away. And if it would have been a good story, you'd still be hearing about it today.
Do you think it had anything to do with the information that was found out, whether it's legit or not? I'm not too sure, but there was rumor going around that his sister was a professional makeup artist.
Yes, she is.
A little bit coincidental?
Yeah, too coincidental.
Is that the reason why Les Stroud moved away from Todd Standing almost immediately?
I think that was a big part of that move, yes. I mean, you don't want to, you know, I wouldn't want to put forth a report or a story on your show or anybody else's show, and then the guy that's with me or helped with it says, well, that's not exactly the way it happened. He doesn't have to say anything. That's all he's got to say is, it's not exactly how it has to happen. And your credibility just went in the toilet and got flushed.
Let's move on to some UFO talk. We're going to start with a question from James Borg in the SOR Space Travelers. It's a long one. He's painting a picture here.
Okay.
He always wanted to investigate Kexsburg UFO crash on December 9th, 1965, and do the same for the Mothman reports that happened between 1966 and 67. And the distance between the two cities is only 217 miles apart. His question is...
Very close.
I believe the two incidents are related, and that the occupant of the crash, at least one of them, is also the one responsible for being known as the Mothman. Have you ever investigated, Butch, the two incidents, and what is your view, which is his view, that the alien from Kexsburg may be the one that escaped, is actually Mothman?
Well, we've been up to Kexsburg twice. Been down to Virginia, West Virginia once, Point Pleasant. It's the alien part of the Kexsburg incident is very recent. I mean, up until about maybe a year or so ago, there was ever any mention of an alien involved in the Kexsburg incident. And it was described as only being seen as a long, spindly arm with, I think it said 4 fingers, coming out of a hatch on the craft. first of all, with Kexsburg, we're talking about Pennsylvania's Roswell, okay? And that incident that occurred back on December 9th, 1965 in Kexsburg, which is about 40 miles from Pittsburgh, was intriguing in many respects because a lot of my information and a lot of contact with the original investigator of this case, which was Stan Gordon, led to a lot of things that, the guy did a hell of a job. Let's put it that way. I mean, he talked to witnesses, he talked to people that were on the scene, he talked to firemen, he just talked to everybody he could get his hands on. But it's amazing when you go to Kexsburg, and if you start asking questions, like go to the fire company, go to the local diner or the bar or whatever, and you start talking about Kexsburg, half the town says, yeah, it happened, and the other half the town swears and declares it didn't happen. And that even happens in the fire department. It's very strange. Some of the original witnesses have changed their story over the years, which doesn't help the case any. But this, for those out there that don't know a whole lot about the Kexsburg incident, it was a object that was moving across the sky. It was very brilliant. And it, as it came over Kexsburg, it kind of made a turn and landed in a heavily wooded area. And there was some bluish-gray smoke, I believe, that came up out of the crash site for just a little bit of time. Of course, firemen, everybody thought it was a plane crash. This is the story. Firemen arrive, then followed by the state police, and, it was funny because the front page of the Tribune Review County edition, dated December 10th of 1965, ran the headline, "Unidentified Flying Object Falls Near Kexsburg," and Army ropes off the area. The city edition of the same newspaper, on the same day, the headline says, "Searchers Fail to Find Object." So, from that point on, Stan Gordon had his hands full. I mean, they said a number of searchers went into that area looking. They didn't see anything. Then there were people that kind of snuck into the area, said they saw this object, which was the shape of an acorn-type shape. Had some strange hieroglyphic writing around the bottom of it. The military were on scene, keeping people back. It was just a very weird story when it first came out. Now, over the years, it's progressed where, Mr. Gordon has gotten a lot more information. And, an object did fall from the sky. Now, some people say it was a Cosmos 96, which was a Soviet probe, Venus probe, that re-entered the atmosphere in Canada on the same date at 3:18 a.m., and the sightings around Kexsburg occurred about, I think it was 4:45 or 4:47 p.m., and, the Russians said that it was not Cosmos 96, and they, that was not the source of what fell that day. And then you have some folks in different states that it flew over, New York, Michigan, so forth, that said that it was just a meteorite. But he had some pretty compelling witnesses that, they described the military vehicle that came to pick it up as a flatbed. They loaded it on the flatbed, and there were prominent businessmen that gave, testimony. There were drawings made, and till this very day, it still has not been solved. As far as the Point Pleasant Mothman thing, the only picture I believe that folks go by is the picture of this bird-like looking figure standing on top of the bridge, which unfortunately collapsed and killed a couple people, and hasn't been seen since. I don't think from what I know of both cases, I don't think I could put them together. They're both intriguing cases. There are a lot of eyewitnesses on both sides, both yeas and nays. But if you are familiar with Roswell and you think about Kexsburg, basically the same thing. There was a crash. The military entered. The military took it away. It was reportedly taken away to Wright-Patterson, which from that location to Wright-Patterson, just a few hours drive. And then that was even more popularized when a gentleman who was delivering fireproof bricks to the base and was told to take them to a certain hangar but not go into the hangar, and that's where he was to be unloaded. And he relays that he saw this object being walled in with this brick that he brought, and a very high security area, you know, lots of armed military walking around and watching every move. And, you know, then there have been people that just came up recently, with a matter of fact, within months, that said, well, it was a nose cone off of a test rocket, which made no sense at all, because these gentlemen that brought that story up, they never talked to one witness ever at any time, where Mr. Gordon, from early on, even got involved with Leslie Keene, and they filed the Freedom of Information Act, and they did get information, and it assuredly was not Cosmos 96. So, you know, people have approached him, you know, with information over the years, and he follows through with it. And to him, it's still an active investigation, because, you know, the way it is now, nobody knows what happened or what it was. Some of the witnesses, of course, have died off over the years. I mean, this case is going to be 51 years old this year. So it's a strange case. Could it have happened the way it was described by the original researcher, Mr. Gordon? Absolutely. Thing that bugs me is, why does half the town say it happened? And I'm saying brother against brother. One brother says it happened, the other brother said it wasn't. It never happened. Or one family said it did, and the other family said it doesn't. They all live in the same town. This is not a big town. We're not talking about downtown Vancouver here. I mean, we're talking about a town that if you drive through at 35 mile an hour, well, I think the speed's even 25 mile an hour, and you blink your eyes 3 times, you're out of town. So, you know, some people have questioned it. Some people believe it wholeheartedly. Could it have happened? Again, I say, yeah, it could have. It always cracked me up, though, that the the county edition of the same newspaper says, you know, unidentified flying object falls near Kexsburg, police army ropes off the area. And then the same paper for the city edition says searchers failed to find object. And where it fell, like I said, we've been there a couple times. Where it fell, I mean, it's very accessible for a flatbed truck to get down in there. No big deal. Now, a tractor trailer, I wouldn't say would get down in there, but a flatbed trailer could get down in there. And there was, you know, a gully caused by the crash where this thing landed and kind of just slid and made a trench. There were broken tree and tree branches where this object came through the trees. It's a farm area, and in the middle of this big field, there's this clump of trees, maybe I don't know, I'd say half an acre of trees, old trees, and that's where the crash took place.
I have a question from. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just in my estimation, you know, could it have happened? Absolutely.
Eric has a question in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. And he's asking, Butch, what do you think of Jim Mars's assertion that it was the Nazi project known as the Bell, which was captured during Operation Paperclip, supposedly?
Well, I think the size is the biggest difference. The well-known Polish researcher that wrote a number of books and also is the premier investigator of the Glock, the bell, the Nazi bell, over in Germany and Poland. Igor Witkowski, just thought I'd throw that in there. No relation whatsoever. But Igor says the same thing. He says the size, it's different. The bell was much higher and thinner, had a look of an elongated bell. But again, he also says that it did have writing around the base of it, like this one. It was considered to be a time-traveling machine that they were trying to develop, where they could build a bunch of these and, move an entire army from Poland to downtown New York in a matter of hours. The bell has been investigated by many, many people. There are many good books on the bell. The bell takes you into the Nazi secret programs. It also takes you into the Wunderwaffen that was in charge of all these special projects like the bell and a number of other things like the atomic bomb and all that stuff. But he has the same problem with his case, where in his investigations of Der Glock, the bell, although there were a lot of witnesses, a lot won't talk. A lot of people say they found the plans. They found the gentleman or actually found his grandson or great-grandson, who actually had the plans to show how this would work. It was a matter of putting a certain type of gas into this bell and certain type of electric charges that caused it to run in reverse, and that would make it was basically an anti-gravity machine that they were trying to develop into a time machine. And but the drawings are there. They're out on the internet. You can look at the drawings. You can look at the YouTube testimony by the great-grandson, who actually has a working model of it. There was a gentleman made a working model. Germans are great with toys. And this guy built a working model, and the son has it, and he can fire it up, and it does lift off the table by itself. Doesn't go far, but it does work.
That is actually kind of incredible with it. There was a reporter who showed up at the scene before anybody else arrived. He was a reporter with WHJB radio station. His name is John Murphy. Has anybody ever talked to him about what he saw in regards to it? Is he still alive?
Well, no, he's passed. He was the new director of WHJB radio in Greensburg at the time. And he is believed to be the first reporter on the scene. His former wife said that he was in she was in radio contact with him from the site that day, and he told her that he went down into the woods and he saw the object. A number of informants have approached and said with information that some people who were military and government affiliated and wished always never to be identified at the time said the same thing. And I don't remember when Murphy passed away. I don't think it was that awful long ago, or it may have been. But they said he was the first guy on the scene. What I think is troubling is that 1965, cameras weren't antique. I mean, and I don't know what kind of cameras people up there in that work environment would carry around or have. But there were good cameras. I mean, you had Polaroids, you had Nikon F Photomatics. There were quite a number. Yashica. I mean, there were quite a number of cameras, 35 millimeter, 110. I mean, some were very cheap, some were very expensive. And not one photograph has ever surfaced of this, the crash site when it happened, or the object being removed, or while it was on the ground. Not one photograph. I mean, till this day, Stan Gordon has kind of a running thing out there. If you have any pictures of anything of what happened on Kexsburg that day, contact him immediately.
Why do you think this one was covered up so much more than Roswell? Like at Roswell, you had people coming out saying that they were threatened or told not to talk. You know what I'm saying? Whereas with this one, it seemed like there was very few people, even though thousands may have witnessed what looked like a meteor coming through the sky. It was very, very hushed up by the military quickly, almost like being non-existent.
Well, I mean, it's not to say that it wasn't something of ours, or it might have been something of the Canadians. I mean, the Canadians had quite a few sites in Canada that were involved in a lot of secret stuff with the United States. The Avro Car was one of them. The Avro Car, everybody thinks, well, you know, the Avro Car, oh, that was built here in the United States. No, it wasn't. The Avro Car was built at Avro Industries in Canada. And that's where it was tested, and that's where it was kept. It's now at the Smithsonian, but, I mean, that's where the thing was built. It was built in Canada. And a lot of stories came out where they said, well, this is just some errant object that, well, one of the stories was it was an errant object that came out of Canada. It was supposed to mimic the Nazi bell, and it got out of control and, you know, fell to the ground.
You bring up a good point there about the Avro program, and I don't think a lot of people really fully understand that between the late 50s and I believe 1968-69, the Avro program was one of the premier aviation companies in the world. Like, it was above and beyond Boeing and McDonnell Douglas technology-wise. They were doing things with airplanes and flight that American builders at that time couldn't put their fingers on. The Avro Aero project is one of those projects. And then all of a sudden, it almost seemed like there was some deal cut between the United States and Canada, and they ended up taking all of the Avro program and literally dumping it into Lake Ontario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it kind of makes you wonder what went on there and what was the big cover-up. The rumor was, at least up here, that a lot of those Avro Aero people went and joined the Germans from the Project Paperclip to help really establish NASA.
Well, yeah, and then, I forget how many came over with Project Paperclip, but although 50% or better went down to NASA, the other 50% were pretty much unaccounted for, and then their names started popping up at Avro in Canada. When the Allied forces reached these places, you know, Peenemünde and stuff, where those places where these projects were being built, I mean, these guys didn't have a choice. It was get on the truck or I put a bullet in your head. So whether they were smart, dumb, the best, the worst, it didn't matter. They were a scientist, and they were going to the United States or they were going to Canada. And the instant, I mean, you know, I don't know how much, I'm sure during World War II that there was a lot of communication between Canada and, you know, our northern brothers and the military here in the U.S. because they're both all fighting the same deal, whether it was in the Pacific or it was in Europe. And but it's just hard to believe when somebody says, well, the Canadians wouldn't work with the U.S. on something that delicate. And then you tell them that the Avro saucer was built in Canada. And they say, no, it wasn't, because there's a U.S. insignia on it. What part of this didn't you get? So
I believe it was
I
believe it was also first tested at Canadian Forces Base Cold Lake as well. There was a big project there about it.
Yep. It was very heavily guarded. I mean, the Avro, the only reason people got to know about the Avro was because when it finally got to the point that it would only do 35 miles an hour and it would only land, you know, get off the ground about 3 or 4, 5 foot. I mean, they kind of figured it was a worthless project, but the amount of money and time that went into that project, you know, and then people saying, well, they were back engineering. Well, if they were back engineering and they had no UFO, where'd they get the UFO to back engineer other than Wright Patterson?
And we'll get more into that right after this. Butch Witkowski is our guest tonight. Strange Days, our new monthly feature on the final Monday of every month here on Spaced Out Radio. We're hopping out for a break. The final hour of SOR coming up right after this.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Is the 24-hour world starting to wear you down? Let me from Rivulet Reiki and Ratings lend you a hand. Hi, this is Jolene, and if you're in need of Reiki or a realm reading, come to my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r, and let us help you out. At Rivulet, I specialize in healing your body, mind, and soul, no matter where you are. And be sure to check out the Rivulet R&R Facebook page for your best deals. Remember, it's time for you to make some time for you.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking out the brand new looking SOR Spaced Out Radio website at spacedoutradio.com. We've changed everything around, made it more intimate, more interactive, and we have officially fired up the SOR Space Travelers group, where for only $5 a month, you can become a space traveler, win prizes, take part in private group interviews, monthly newsletters, and so much more. We're really looking forward to you being a part of it. And you know what? If you're a member of another group and all they're doing is giving you access to their archives, well, to me, that's not showing you, the listener, very much respect. Not putting anybody down, but when you come over to us, join the SOR Space Travelers, we're going to make sure that you, as a listener, are taken care of and recognized on a monthly basis. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. Subscribe to that so you can listen to our archive. And our website is spacedoutradio.com with a brand new, awesome look. At least I'm going to say that. Of course. So, tonight we are talking with Butch Witkowski from UFO Cop. His monthly appearance on this show is the final Monday of every month. We call it Strange Days around this area. Butch, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Where are we going now?
Well, we were just talking about Kexsburg, and we were talking about ufology and where everything was kind of going. Let's get to some questions here from our audience. And Tripp is asking, Butch, is there anything you wish you would be able to investigate?
Boy, that's a good question. Wow, that really is a good question. Wish I had an answer. I mean, there's a lot of things I'd like to investigate. I guess, I guess more or less in these unknown cryptids, I'd like to do more, although they're few and far between, so a little hard to do that. But, I mean, you know, and there's so many great cases throughout the history of ufology that, I mean, there's a case I'd like to investigate out in Missouri that where a lady was driving home and a craft hovered above the car shut off, everything went dead, and the craft lifted the car up, took it off the road, and set it out in the field, and then took off. And there were witnesses to that.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many great cases. I mean, that wow. I'd have to really think about that one. That's a great question, though. I got stumped.
Isn't it always that it's the easiest questions that usually just stump you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I never had a question like that. Like if I had my wish, what would I like to investigate? Wow. I mean, I'd really have to think on that one. Because, like I said, there are so many great cases out there.
I know for me personally, I think if I could do anything again, you know, out of all the experiences that I have had, when Samantha Mowat and I ran into that extraterrestrial in the forest back in April of 2014 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they invited us over. They were telepathically communicating with Samantha on that, and when they invited us over, I would... Next time, I would go up to it. I would go, I need that to happen, I think, in my life, and I don't know if I'll ever get that opportunity again. But if I'm going to say lucky enough, even though I'm sure not sure if it is lucky, I'm going up to it. I have to know. And it's that itch that I just need to scratch, that if I don't do it, Butch, I'm going to regret it if I get that second opportunity. And I don't live with regret with not going the first time, because I'll be honest with you, I was freaking out. I was standing still, but internally I was freaking out. But I would go up. And if they asked me to go for a ride, I would. And that's where I kind of leave that.
Yeah, it would be kind of hard to pass up, wouldn't it? I mean, if they said, come on, we'll take you for a ride.
Well...
Only if you sign here on the dotted line that you're going to bring me back.
Exactly. And you know, it was one of those things where, you know, I bring this up, I brought this up a few times over the last couple of months. I always like to ask people, how would you act? Because you always hear people, I would love to see a UFO or an alien up close. I don't care what it is, good, bad. I need to see one. They just have this yearning desire that they need to have that personal proof. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Bigfoot, werewolves, Dogman, whoever it is, these people who are interested in these topics, if they've never had an experience, they need to have that proof. And they don't care whether it's good or bad. And my question to them is always, how are you going to act? Because immediately you get that person who says, well, why didn't you pull out your iPhone? Did you have your phone on you? Yeah, I had my phone on me. Well, why didn't you take some pictures? Because when you see a 10 to 12-foot alien standing 200 feet in front of you, and your mind is trying to process everything, it's the last thing you think about.
Oh, yeah.
Do you tell people something along those... Yeah, do you tell people about that?
Look, there are people in the field that are focused on a UFO. I mean, they're getting ready to take a shot and stuff like that, and something happens where it'll stop or it'll beam down a light, and they freeze, and they never do take that picture. Their mind just shuts that, their process is shut off, and now they're on a different land. They're trying to see and process what they're looking at, and this and the other. They totally forgot about the camera. I've heard that a dozen times. The guy's going like, I have a $700 camera in my hand, and I forgot to push the trigger. And I'm like, okay. So, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
It's just human nature, because we all think that we're all going to go Rambo. Or be the one who gets that still Bigfoot photo, or gets that, photo of the extraterrestrial. And it's just amazing, because those are the type of people who freak out. And it makes me smile when I think that. It really does. It makes me smile and think, I want to go to the person, you really have no effing clue on how you're going to react until you're put in that situation. And trust me, the last thing you're going to think about is taking a photo, because your mind is not going to believe what your eyes are just seeing, because it makes you absolutely forget about everything, or question immediately everything you have been taught in life, whether you're religious, whether you're not.
It's a strange place to be when you're confronted like that, whether it's a UFO or a Bigfoot or an alien or anything. I mean, it's your mind and body do not react like you think it would. I mean, everything is just, your mind, like you said, isn't processing that. It's processing what the hell you're looking at. And, it happens. I think it happens more in ufology than it does anything else, because there aren't too many people, although there are a lot of people claim they've seen a Bigfoot. There aren't too many people that have that experience where they say they froze, or they didn't remember they had a camera, or they forgot where they were at, or they were telepathically connected to the creature. I mean, even those stories are few and far between. But there are some stories out. I mean, there's a story that Dr. Roger Lear told at the X conference in 2007 down in Washington, D.C., where a guy's laying in bed, and he had the window open because it was a hot evening, and he watched a hand with 3 fingers come in through the open window, and it actually left prints, impressions on the drywall. And I don't remember the whole story, but he made some kind of ruckus or something like that, and of course the hand went away. But the hand was there, and Dr. Lear, he was contacted, and Lear sent over a construction crew to take that section of the wall out, and then they replaced it with a new section, of course. And by the time they got it back to the lab, it was just a piece of drywall. Although they all saw the impressions and photographed them, when they got that piece of drywall back, there was no impressions.
Do you think they were switched on the way?
No. No, he said he sat in the car with it in the bag. Nobody else was in the car but the driver, which was one of his employees. And
Weird.
The contractor saw. I mean, he had photographs of it. The photographs were okay. But there was no nothing on there. Well, and that's not unusual because he's taken out implants from abductees. And as a matter of fact, the one he described down at the conference was he took one out and he broke it. He actually broke it in half. But he put it back in a jar after they were done with it, looking at it and doing radio tests and all that stuff on it. He put it back in the jar, sealed the jar, put it in a locked cabinet, and there's a security guard that stayed there outside the door. And there's only one way into the room and one way out, and there was security there. And came back in the lab next day, opened up the refrigerator unit and took the jar out. It was still sealed, still had the evidence tape on it and his signature and all that stuff. Opened it up and looked in the jar, and it grew back together.
No kid.
Mm-hmm. It was back to one piece and was giving off a radio signal. Very low frequency. But just the fact that he broke it and then puts it away for the night and there's nobody in or out, he has the only key, and he comes back the next day and him and his assistant open up the jar and look in to pull it out, and it's in one piece. It grew back together.
It's amazing what alien technology can do.
Yeah. What did one guy say a while back? That if something left, the name of the planet just went right out of my head. But if it left the planet and came to us here on Earth, he said you're looking at 37,000 years of travel. And I went like, wow, that's a long time. And, you've got astronauts that have come forward. You've got, there's some good cases right out of MUFON that guys gotten really good documentation on. Good photos, good video. And, but, somebody saying that there's nothing up there, it's all your mind or you're dreaming or it's something that we have. Look, we don't have anything that can cross from horizon to horizon in a matter of a second or less, zigzagging across the sky and stop dead and go upright and shoot up into the stars. We don't have anything like that.
What about the TR-3B?
Nope, not even close. These things have been clocked by radar, not by, I don't mean radar like the local state police are going to use on you. On a radar screen, they can also get your speed. And these things have shot across radar screens where the guy's, screaming, this thing just went 10,000 mile per hour. This thing just went 15,000 mile per hour. This thing just went 35,000 mile per hour. And you're going like, that's impossible. And then you look at the screen and you see this blip go from one side to the other before you can blink your eyes, and he punches up the speed, and the speed's 35,000 miles an hour. We don't have anything like that. We don't have our fastest rocket doesn't even go that fast. If you compare one of our rockets to one of those radar blips where they check the speed, it's like comparing, a Model T to a brand new Mustang supercar, and there's no comparison. And color changes, things dropping from the sky. I investigated a case up near Allentown, Pennsylvania, where the guy's on his back porch, he and his wife, and he's a star watcher. He's not a UFO guy, he's a star watcher. He likes to look at stars, he likes to look at planets. In this particular night, it was a pretty decent full moon, and with binoculars, he could make out pretty much what was on, going around the moon and, that kind of stuff. It was just a good night for an amateur astrologer. And he said all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just north of where he was looking, he sees these 3 orange orbs. And he said they're not moving around. They're pretty much in unison, and they black out. They disappear, and then one large white orb comes up, which is about, he said, 3 times the size of the 3 smaller ones, and it just hovers there, and then the 3 orange ones that he thought he saw earlier drop from below the white one, and they fall to the ground, or what he imagines as hitting the ground. And then he said the white one goes up. The white one splits into 2. 2 of the orange ones come back up, get into the one on the left-hand side, and the one comes back up and gets into the other side. The 2 white ones join together into one, and then this thing just turns a bright reddish, greenish, bluish, kind of a rainbowish color, and just shoots off straight up into the sky. And he said it was a clear night. It was a starry night, he said, but we're not viewing stars here in Pennsylvania like you'd view stars out in the middle of the desert somewhere. And he said he watched it till it disappeared into the stars. And I'm like, wow. So there's strange stuff that happens that can't be explained. I mean, there's no explanation for it. It's just stuff is not of this world.
When you were doing an investigation in regards to what is extraterrestrial and what is man-made, shall we say, do you investigate what might be flying in the skies for the United States military? And I'm thinking about the Aurora project here, because for a while there in California, from Nevada over through California to get to the ocean, almost every day or weekly at the same time, there was minor earthquakes that were being coming up on the Richter scale coming out of Nevada, which is something that doesn't happen. And a lot of people believe that was the pulsation from the Aurora. What is your take on that?
Oh, I definitely think that a lot of that, I would say a high percentage of what we see in the sky is military. But it's the ones that are very high. I mean, that if you look at them with the naked eye while they're moving across the sky and by themselves or in pairs or 3s or 4s, or in a certain pattern, they're but a pinprick of light, And when you see, like you can with your plain eye, I mean, on a full moon, if it's right, and you check the NASA charts to see when it's going to go over, you can see with your plain eye. You can see the International Space Station. I mean that's I've seen that 100 times already. I mean, it's slow moving, it shimmers, so therefore you get a lot of UFO reports. But the only thing it's shimmering is the solar panels, to keep the power. And the space winds are moving it, and you got reflection off of stars, you got reflection off the moon, you got reflection off of this and that and everything. So that's causing all the different color changes people see. But there have been pictures taken of the ISS in front of the moon that, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, you can pick out every part of the ISS, from front to back, top to bottom. But it's those things that are way high, way deep in space they start out looking like a little pinprick, and they're very fast. They'll streak across the sky in a blink, or they're if they're slow moving, or what I would call the slow moving, not like a satellite, but where they're zigzagging and they stop, and then they go up or they go down, or then they'll go ahead and then they'll go back to their zigzag pattern, or they'll make an abrupt turn and either drop straight down or go straight up. We don't have anything like that. I mean, can you imagine what would happen to a pilot if he was going from horizon to horizon at, I don't know what Mach speed that would be, and then the thing stops and makes a turn? He'd be a ball of jelly. I mean, we don't have anything like that. And I mean, even the stuff that they're developing, I mean, yeah, I know they're coming up with this rocket, aka missile, that can go from New York or any military base in the United States and hit anything in Europe in a matter of less than 20, 25 minutes. I mean, okay. And it does not have to go into orbit. This thing can leave and on trajectory just climb way high and come straight down. Russians have them, we have them, Chinese have them. It's different names for the same product. But although I do agree that a lot of the stuff up there is our military and other militaries. But there's just some things that defy what we are capable of doing. And, one of the big things in the last couple of years has been triangles. And they're seen everywhere. I mean, they've been seen over Harrisburg here in Pennsylvania. They've been seen pretty much in every state in the Union and Canada and Puerto Rico. They've been seen in outlying islands. Guam has had them. And people say, well, they're all military. Well, I just don't really see the purpose of the military flying multi-billion-dollar craft like a triangle above the island of Guam. You know, I don't know what purpose it would serve, but they are not. Here's the part that's a little confusing. They are not seen in Europe. North America, Canada, Puerto Rico, South America, yeah.
Have you ever seen one?
One. Yeah, one.
I've seen two.
It was very slow moving. It was very quiet. It wasn't very high off the ground, maybe 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 feet at the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have it in my mind that I was watching a military drone.
The first one that I saw, there was three of us who saw it on my patio, and it came about 25 minutes after we saw an orange rod streak across the sky. And at the end of this orange rod, it seemed to have silver, it looked like a dumbbells, like silver orbs on each end of this orangish gold type rod. And there was no trail behind it, nothing. So to me, that eliminated, in my amateur view, it eliminated it being a, shooting star or a meteorite or something along those lines that us amateurs would call it. And then about 25 minutes later, looked up in the sky, and there was this triangle at about, like you said, maybe 2,000 feet. If that, nice and low, no sound, and the entire undercarriage was lit up by these orange bars connected by these silver orbs. And three of us watched it, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Three of us watched it like a door opened up in the sky, and it just flew right into that door and disappeared right in front of us.
That was definitely not ours.
No, I don't think so. My friend, I'm going to get you to hold on for a final break of the night. Butch Witkowski is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Strange Days is what we call this show when Butch is on. He is on the final Monday of every month. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back after our final break of the night.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from UFO Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio?
Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us.
From the radio, commercials, to banners, to social media.
Have a product you'd like our host to endorse? We can do that too.
Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomenon every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Spaced Out Radio.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where two members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Missed most of tonight's show? Don't worry, you didn't miss a thing. You can head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and download our archives for free. And don't forget to get your Space Travelers membership today. Now, back to tonight's show. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. As we've rounded third, we are headed for home. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Hey, check out our new website, spacedoutradio.com. There's a lot of cool features on there, including Eric Markham's new SOR Space Wire. That is our news wire of weird and absurd stories. It's fantastic. Along with the new SOR Space Travelers. You could sign up for a membership. We have 3, 6, and 1 year packages for as low as $5 a month. Be a part of the team. Be a part of us, the SOR Space Travelers. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, subscribe to it to hear our archives, is Spaced Out Radio Show, and our new look website is spacedoutradio.com. Once again, SOR Space Travelers, the password for tonight, set by Bill Cardwell, is Sleuth. Yes, Sleuth is your password for tonight if you're in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Facebook, which we call the SOR Space Travelers. Tonight, for the final time, we bring in Butch Witkowski from UFOcop.com. He is a monthly contributor to this show. The final Monday of every month, we talk all things weird, absurd, and just really, really cool. Appreciate you coming back with us, Butch.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Hey, you've been investigating the werewolf sightings that have been going on in Pennsylvania. Love an update on that, because the last time you were on, it was getting pretty intense in your state.
Yeah. We got our 16th report on, I believe it was May 7th of this year. I was at a conference, a Bigfoot conference, up in Farmington, Pennsylvania, and a gentleman walked up and asked me who I was, and he said, "You're the guy I'm looking for," and I went, "Okay." And he said, "My wife saw something that she really needs to discuss with you," and I said, "Okay." So he said, "I'll go get her. We're not here at the conference. We're down at the campground down below, but I'll go get her." And I said, "Well, just meet me over at that big white truck over there." And I said, I'll talk to her. So, nice young couple. She's 27. He's 32, I believe. They got 3 kids. She works with autistic children. He owns a landscaping company. They live up in Port Matilda. And she said last August, she didn't remember the date, but it was a bright full moon, which would have made it August 29th. She said, I just opened the door and was looking out the screen at the bright moon. She said it was just gorgeous, and she said it was like daylight outside, and her eyes fixed on something standing at their pond. Now, the house is a single-story home. Looking at the house, on the left-hand side would be a state game land, a state park. On the right-hand side and the rear of the house, there's an apple orchard, and in the front of the house is this pond, which isn't awfully big, maybe 50, 60 foot in diameter, and it's stocked with some fish. And she said, standing at the edge of the pond, looking down into the pond, is this, I don't know what the hell it is. And I said, "Well, can you describe it? How tall was it?" She said, "How tall are you?" I said, "I'm 6'1". She said, "Well, good 2 foot over you." Okay, so that makes it 8 foot or more. And she said it was very muscular chest, arms, had hands with claws. She could see all that. I mean, it was very bright outside. She said it was standing upright, 2 legs, very muscular thighs, rear legs like a dog, the hock legs, and she said the head of a wolf, massive head, short ears, and she said, I saw some movement behind it, which I'm assuming was a tail, but she said, I didn't see a tail, I just saw some movement. She said it was very short-haired, and it was just staring into the pond. And I said, so how long was it there? And she said, well, I watched it for a good 10, 12 minutes. It didn't move. And I went like, wow. And she said, I said, it didn't look toward you? Or she said, no, nothing. I mean, she just stood there staring into the pond. So she said, after a while, she said, I just figured that I was looking at something I shouldn't really be looking at. And I closed the door, went in and got my husband. He grabbed a weapon. He went outside and it was gone. Now, she said, when I was looking at it, she said, I didn't turn on any porch lights because it was that bright out. But she said when the husband came to the door, he did turn the lights on. And she said, I don't know if that scared it off because he turned the lights on before he opened the door. And she said, we're only a matter of yards from the state game land. And I said, but it just stood there staring into the pond. I said, it didn't do anything, like it wasn't reaching into the pond or its head wasn't moving around watching something. She said, no, it just stood perfectly still staring down into the pond. So he went out the next day looking to see if there were any type of footprints or anything there or, dead fish, or he said nothing was there. He said the only thing that was very odd was they have a 1-year-old pit bull puppy. And this puppy from day one has been trained to go out the front door, down at the bottom of the steps, go off to the right and do his business. And he runs right back in, heads for the water dish and the food dish. She said he's done that for a year. This particular morning, the husband says, he goes out, gets to the porch, and he stops. And he's sniffing around. He gently walks down the steps, gets to the bottom, walks to the other end of the porch. And he said, we have a large front porch. He comes back over. He goes over to the cars in the driveway, and there's 2 cars parked there. He whizzes on every tire, which he's never done before. Comes back over, whizzes at the edge of the porch, walks up the other end, whizzes at that part of the porch. He runs back up the steps into the house and hid behind the couch for 3 hours. She said we had to coax him out to get him out from behind the sofa. He said that was the only part that was, besides what you saw, was strange. And, the more I thought about it, I'm thinking, well, what would he be looking at? And then it dawned on me, and I may be right, may be wrong, but I'm thinking, hey, what if he was looking at his own reflection? Maybe he never saw that before. Still pond, bright moon, be like looking in a mirror. But the fact that she watched him for that amount of time and he didn't move was that was spooky. That was just darn right spooky. But in every report we have, these things show no fear of mankind of any type.
Was this creature in the vicinity of where you have been investigating, or is this a whole new territory?
Oh, smack dab in the middle of our Lichen Loop research area.
Really?
Yep.
I find that totally amazing that you're getting these creatures in that area. Are there any, and I didn't ask you this the last time we talked about it, but are there any scientific buildings around there, or experimental buildings, military buildings in that area?
Some old munitions plant. There's an old munitions, actually it was a town, Alvera, where they made munitions during World War II, and there's a whole bunch of old bunkers there. Some are open, some are welded shut. There's part of the land was given to the federal government, so there's a federal prison up there. But there's only a fence, like a garden fence between the prison property and the town. All the houses are gone. The foundations are still there. Not far from that location is an old nuclear research building where back in the 60s they were trying to develop nuclear engines for commercial aircraft. And I don't mean like jumbo jets and stuff like that. I mean they were trying to develop something like for a Cessna, 2 or 4 passenger. And then that was shut down in the late 90s. Now that's still all considered, you're not allowed in there. It's all government area. It's got a lot of signs up, gates and all that stuff. Military bases, the only thing that'd be close would be there's, a couple Pennsylvania National Guard armories in that area, but not many. I think there's 3 that encompass that, but we've had nothing outside the loop, and I've pretty much given up calling it anything but a unknown bipedal canine, because it does not match any descriptions of Dogman, none whatsoever. It's taller, it's bigger. The Dogman shows always, every report says they showed glowing red eyes. This thing shows glowing yellow eyes. It's always seen in state parks where Dogman reports they have them walking around the back of the local 7-Eleven. They got them in schoolyards, along railroad tracks, parking lots, downtown, walking on the street. They're smaller, much smaller. Dogman's got multicolored coats, has fluffy fur. These things are all short black or dark brown fur. Some of the Dogman reports say fluffy ears. These all have very short pointed ears. None of them in the no Dogman reports match up or, describe a wolf type creature. So what we're dealing with, I really don't know. I have no clue. That's why I just say it's an unknown bipedal canine.
Could it be a scientific experiment that has gone wrong?
It could be. Sure, it could be. That happened down in Maryland many years ago, where a gentleman he was fishing and saw something on the other bank that he didn't know what it was. He said it had ape-like features, but it was very tall, very muscular. And by the time he walked out to his car, the state police were there, and the local police were there. There was a helicopter in the air, almost like they knew it was there and they were looking for it. And then at that time, there was an old building not far from that location that was used as a prison laundry. So in other words, they'd go to these local county prisons and stuff and pick up laundry and take it there, and the guys would, launder the stuff and send it back. Well, that was taken over by the government, and all of a sudden a big fence went up, and he relates talking to a guy who said he was there inside one time, and he said the guy was delivering something or picking something up. I forget what the deal was, but he said it looked like he passed a door, and it looked like something inside was trying to get out of the door, and this door was just virtually destroyed, just pushed out, beat out. And he said something to the guard that was accompanying to him, and he says, what do you have in there? He says, you don't want to know.
Wow.
So could that, and the fact that, this other group of Bigfoot researchers runs across this military guy up in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night, all dressed, ready to rock and roll.
What about the idea that we go back to the supernatural history of werewolf, where it's actually a person who is ripping off their shirt because they have the werewolf inside of them, just like the old horror movies used to show us?
There's even a medical term for it. It's called lycanthropy. And, when you go back in history of werewolves or wolfmen, they go back to Roman times. And one of the things was that we came across, and I got the guy's book. It took me a while to get it, but the book was published in 1865 or 1868, 65, I think. And he wrote a whole book about it. And it was amazing how the churches got involved with werewolves. And it started with the Protestants in England, who, there were so many shires and outposts of people living all over the country. They all didn't live in downtown London. And they were trying to convert these people, and these people were mostly pagan. And they didn't cotton to Protestants or anybody else that was trying to push religion on them. And so some brilliant minister, priest, whatever they would be back then, decided that they would hire somebody, a killer, to go into the town and really just find a couple of people and really rip them up, tear them up, like a wolf did it. And so that wasn't hard to find. I'm sure there were plenty of guys who would do that for $1. And they went in there, and they would kill off a few people, and really didn't matter if they were men, women, children, made no difference. They just ripped them up, let the bodies lay. Then, of course, your local minister would pop in and say, whoa, what happened here? And they'd tell him the whole story, and he'd say, well, look, if you join the church will protect you. We'll send our people to protect you. Because every church back then had their own army. Catholics, Protestants, they all had them. So what would happen then, they'd send the guy that they hired back in, go kill a few more people. Well, he'd kill a few more people, but this time when he was getting ready to leave, he'd run into one of these armies, or a group of soldiers, who would kill him on the spot and just get rid of him. And the minister would come back and say, well, we found the werewolf, we found him in such and such an area, and we killed him, and he's gone, so you won't have that problem anymore. Well, they didn't have that problem anymore, because now there were good church members who were paying tax or whatever to the church. And it wasn't long after that the Catholics did the same thing in Italy and Spain. Same thing, exactly the same thing. You would hire somebody to go in and cause the damage, and then, get them to cross over to their side, and then they'd send in a few soldiers to go find the guy who was probably sitting there waiting on a log to get paid when they got killed. And then it goes on in Roman times. Romulus and Remus. That was the beginning of the Roman Empire. And that was the two gentlemen nursed and raised by a wolf. So the wolf has played a big part in history from the very beginning. The toughest Roman soldiers in the legions were, the guys that wore their wolf skin as a helmet over their helmet. Those guys were feared most of all because they took no prisoners. I don't care who or what or when. If you came up against them, whether it was your town, your city, your just local, whatever, everybody was killed. Nobody was spared. So the fear of the wolf really took off in England, where people believed that, they were possessed, and they would, at a full moon or through a salve that was made up by some witch or or renegade lunatic, that if they rubbed this on them, they became a wolf, and they actually attacked and killed people and dismembered them, and, and they were human. And then there's a disease that is still dominant today, where, mostly in India, where these children are born, and their bodies are just covered by hair. I mean, they're just, facial, body hair. I mean, they're hair from head to foot. And it's only been in the last few years they've been able to use laser treatments to, keep it under control. But these kids are still very hairy. I mean, you look at some of these kids and they look like a werewolf right out of Lon Chaney. And they all have similar features. So when those kids started popping up back in those days, of course, everybody that was using the werewolf for their own gain was using these children and adults that had this disease as their proof. So they would do whatever they had to do. They'd round up one of these people or children or an adult and take them before the crowd and say, here, okay, this is what a werewolf is, and blah, blah, blah. And they'd start the story and then burn them at a stake. And it's just amazing how this went on and on and on until today, till this very day, in this age, our century, the belief of werewolves in Europe is still extremely high. Now, a lot of serial murders have been caught, and some of them really did think they were wolves, and some of them just were trying to make a buck. But it's amazing when you look back at the history of these wolves. And then there are cases where there is no explanation. I mean, the people that were killed were found to have wolf saliva or urine at the crime scene. The bodies were just ripped apart, teeth marks, totally emasculated bodies left, some parts eaten, some parts not. And bite size would be, the size of a large wolf. And, I mean, that could all be passed off in the woods as pretty much anything, but we're talking about people that have been killed in an apartment, a house, a garage, a school, and, what's the cop going to say now? Wolf walked in and did this? No. Then they go a little further and they find clothing that wasn't there before, but was there after the killing. It's a very strange world. That the world of the world of the werewolf, or somebody that thinks they have lycanthropy or has lycanthropy, is very strange. I mean, there's one story that stuck out in the book for me, or actually two, but the one was a gentleman who was very wealthy, and this takes place back in probably coming to the end of the Roman Empire, and he always had a soldier that would go along with him to collect his money, taxes, whatever he was collecting. And this one particular day, he goes out, and the soldier kind of disappears. He can't find him. Well, a little while later, on his way back from whatever he was doing, he runs into a gentleman who just said he was attacked by a wolf, and he thinks he killed him because he struck him with a sword across the side of his neck. And the guy said, oh, wow, no big deal. So he goes back, and he goes back to the Army, whatever, base or whatever, to find out what happened to his buddy, his friend that was supposed to accompany him. And he was lying there on a table, and he had a slash mark across his neck, which was fatal.
Oh, wow.
Another story that stuck out was in England. It was in the early 1800s, where there were two farms side by side. Everybody knew each other. They were all born and raised on the same farm, so it was family and family. They all knew everybody. Everybody was everybody's buddy. And they raised sheep. And the older girl of the one family was out tending sheep, and she would always talk to her neighbor, a gentle old man in his 70s or 80s, and he would come out and ask her if she needed any help or if she was okay, and he would, oh yeah, I'm fine. They'd talk a little bit, and then she started seeing at the top of the hill, looking over the meadow where she had her sheep, was a very large wolf, and he'd be there, then he wouldn't be there. Some days he was there, some days he wasn't. But it started to scare her because of the size of the wolf, and the dogs didn't seem to want to go near it. The sheepdog didn't want any part of it. So she told her father, and her father told the next-door neighbor, and a bunch of the men got together and loaded up and went out there, and they spotted the wolf. The wolf took off for the woods, and they shot the wolf. 2 shots in the back, and the wolf dropped. And next thing you know, they can't find the old man. He's gone. He didn't come home. He wasn't home. So after nightfall passed, they go out looking for the old man, and they find him. About 300 yards from where they shot the wolf, there lay the old man with 2 bullet holes in his back.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have one final question for the night coming in from Joe in the SOR Space Travelers.
Okay.
What do you think are the biggest differences between Bigfoot and Dogman? Or are they just 2 completely different species, in your opinion?
In my opinion, 2 completely different species. First of all, size. You're talking about, when they're describing a Dogman, they're pretty much describing like a large dog. You know, maybe a Great Dane, a Mastiff, a large German Shepherd. I mean, all the features they're telling you about when they're saying floppy ears, bushy tail, fluffy coats, and when they're seen standing on their uprights, they don't stand upright very long. They drop pretty quick. And that is indicative of, I was just up at our wolf sanctuary. We have one not far from where I live. I went up there to see what these animals are really like. And I was talking to the guy, and he said, no, they can't stand very long. And he got a piece of watermelon. He was holding it up to the fence, and this large, they're huge, man. That sucker come up, his head was like, I'm a big boy. He made me look like a midget. And he took his watermelon, but he was standing there to get it. And then you could see his back legs started to quiver, and down he went. And he got another piece and brought him up, and he stood there, and then after just a few seconds, not even a minute, his back legs would start to quiver, and he'd go down again. They're just not built that way. I mean, their hips aren't built to do that. And so either we're dealing with, like you said, Dave, something that went awry, or we're dealing with an unknown bipedal, or we're dealing with, in my opinion, a relic, something that's been out there and around for a long, long time, but we haven't had any reports of that type of creature with that description outside of our area, of that lichen loop that we have, that map up. And, I mean, that's it. I mean, there are other reports. There's some in the New York area. There's some, I think, 1 or 2 in Ohio. But they're not concentrated like the 16 that we have in that loop. There's nothing outside of that loop that even comes close to the descriptions that we're getting from these witnesses. And the way it acts, the way it looks, the way it stands its ground, everybody's the same thing. Everybody gets the same feeling of dread, or if they stay there, or, you know, they're going to die, or something really, really bad is going to happen, and they get out of there. And that doesn't matter if they're driving a car or if they're standing in the woods. And there have been guys out there that went in there with weapons, I mean, pretty high-powered weapons, and they backed out and said, no way. They just knew that they were not going to survive whatever was going to come, and they were armed. So I think that's pretty significant, that this thing could possibly telepathically tell you that if you stick around, you're going to become lunch.
Wow. That was a quick 3 hours, Butch.
Yes,
quick
sir.
3 hours.
But it's always a fun course. It's always a good 3 hours.
And we will do it again on July 25th, the final Monday of July. And I look forward to it, my friend.
Oh, so do I.
Absolutely. And I want to appreciate you taking in, and make sure you check out your bio page on the new Spaced Out Radio website.
All righty.
I'll get you to hold on as we're going to fire up Mr. Bumblefoot here tonight as he closes us out. We want to thank Butch Witkowski from UFOcop.com for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. He comes on the final Monday of every month with Strange Days. Some strange stories indeed, from werewolves to Bigfoot to UFOs at Kexsburg, Pennsylvania, all over the place. It's a great show indeed. I want to remind you that you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And of course, our brand new look website, led by the man, the myth, the guitar god legend Bumblefoot, is spacedoutradio.com. Don't forget, if you're brand new to this show or if you're a veteran listening in, you can join us at the Spaced Out Radio website and join for just $5 a month the SOR Space Travelers. Check it out. Sign up today. Just like Bill Cardwell, who gave us the password sleuth in the SOR Space Travelers room on Facebook. Thanks for checking us out tonight. Tomorrow night on the show, Audrey Starborn Mewins will be with us. We are going to talk about ET experiencers, support groups, how they help people. It's definitely going to be a long, good 3-hour ride tomorrow night. Once again, thanks everyone for listening in on the SHR Media Network. Over on Spreaker at the Space Out Radio channel there. On Facebook, Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Forest Moon Paranormal, and of course our flagship, SOR Space Travelers. Good to have you with us. We'll see you again tomorrow night in exactly 21 hours from now. What are you doing in 21 hours from now? I know where I'll be. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us away.
I know you're out there somewhere. This is the new totalitarian state. 1,000 eyes are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you fall.